This interview is a joint production of WKTV Voices, the GVSU Veterans History Project, and the Silversides Museum of Muskegon, Michigan. The interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. And we can begin, we're talking today with Mike Sutton of Muskegon. And so Mike, start us off with some background on yourself, and to begin with, where and when were you born?
We were born the 2nd of March, 1943, here in Muskegon, Michigan.
Okay. And did you grow up here and move around?
Yes. Till I was the age of 20, I lived here.
Okay.
This is when I joined in the Air Force.
Okay. And what was your family doing when you were growing up?
And my father was a pharmacist and owned a drugstore.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was a nurse. Was no longer nursing because she had 3 children to take care of, so she was a housewife.
Okay. And then did you finish high schoul?
Yes.
Okay. What year did you graduate?
1961.
Okay. All right. And then what did you do once you got out of high school?
We went to college for about a year and a half and realized, no, that was not my thing.
Okay.
So I tried not to let the social life be interrupted by academics.
Mm. Yeah, that policy only works so long.
That's true.
Okay. So once you figured that out, what was your next step?
We joined the military,
Okay. And which branch of the service did you join?
the Air Force.
Okay. And why did you pick the Air Force?
My father was a bomber pilot in World War II. Flew B-24s, and I had been brainwashed that you only join the Air Force. So.
Okay. Now, when you went in, were you given an opportunity to pick what kind of training you could get or what kind of assignment, or did you just go where they sent you?
At that time, you didn't ask questions, you didn't request. You did what they told you. They told me and you have 5 seconds to make up your mind. You can be a cop, a cook, or a medic, and that was it.
Okay. And which did you choose?
Medic.
All right. And do you know why you chose that, or?
Probably because of the medical background of the family.
Right. Okay. So when do you actually start in the Air Force? When do you begin training?
April 17th, 1963.
Okay. And where do they send you for your training?
San Antonio.
Okay.
Lackland.
Okay, so Lackland Air Force Base,
Right.
San Antonio, which is where all Air Force personnel
Right.
pretty much train. Okay. Now, describe the basic training that you went through.
Okay, let me try to keep it nice. You just did everything they told you: marching, calisthenics, classrooms, just basic training.
Okay. You need to recognize that most people today don't go in the service and don't know a whole lot about it. So, for instance, how much emphasis was there on sort of drill and discipline?
100%. 100%. It was all discipline. It was drill. It was going to classes. It was the chow line. You were taught everything, how to do it. There was no room for individuality.
Okay. And if you messed up or did something wrong, what happened?
20 push-ups.
Okay. And let's see, was it physically very difficult, or?
It was taxing, but most people made it unless you were really overweight, because everything was considered to be a team. So if one of your people didn't make it, then everybody else suffered also. There was a lot of mass punishment to bring people together as a team, and it worked.
Okay. Now you're in Texas in late spring or early summer. Were the facilities air conditioned?
No. Matter of fact, in May, when the guys goofed up, they made us put on heavy wool overcoats, and we had to run 1.5 miles in that. And there was no air conditioning. In fact, we lived in World War II barracks at the time.
Okay.
So,
All right. And how long did the basic training last?
mine only lasted 7 weeks because Vietnam was starting to build.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that had something, because a lot of the guys stayed for another 5 weeks. It depended on which career you went into,
Right.
and when their schools rotated so they could accept a new class.
Okay. All right. Now at this point, this is still before the ground forces are in Vietnam, but there's already air units over there as well as ones flying in from other places. So that part of it's already happening.
Right.
So at the time you enlisted, Did you expect to go overseas? And if you did you even think about Vietnam?
Didn't think I wanted to go overseas, but Vietnam, the only thing I knew about Vietnam, I had read some books by a Dr. Tom Dooley, who was in Indochina at the time, and talks about how the communists came and knocked them out of Laos and so. But other than that, we'd see newsreels every month at the Air Force. Can't remember, it was the Air Force films, and they'd show guys in Vietnam, and they were still wearing regular fatigues, they weren't jungle fatigues or any of that stuff. But I just wanted to go someplace else.
Okay. All right. So now you have your 7 weeks of basic, and then
Right.
they can send you in school to become a medic.
Right.
All right. Now, what was the curriculum for that? What did you actually learn there?
Well, we went to Greenville, Mississippi, first of all, and I realized there was such a thing as segregation.
Okay.
This is 1963, and we were informed this is where you do go and you don't go. You're not up north anymore, you're down south. Things are different. Okay, the curriculum for the first medical course I went through was only a 4-week course, and it was very, very basic. Teaching you guys where bones were, and basically Red Cross first aid.
Okay. Did you learn to draw blood yet, or
Oh,
does
no,
that come
no,
later?
no,
Okay,
no, nothing like that.
just-
Because after that course, they divided us up. Some guys became lab technicians, some became other aspects of the physical therapy. Okay, it just became, it was your next school, that you got all that.
Okay. So what was your next school?
Went to Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay.
Went to Gunner Air Force Base, and that was 13 weeks long.
Okay. And what was that training for?
It was advanced medical. Okay, it's what we call the 3-level. You did draw blood, you started learning about labs, you started learning about diseases, you learned how to take care of patients, make beds, things of that nature. Again, quite basic, but more advanced.
So getting you more ready to work in a hospital setting,
Exactly,
basically?
exactly.
All right. And then was Alabama a lot like Mississippi in terms of the rules?
Extreme. So we were in Montgomery. Matter of fact, Gunner Air Force Base is on that highway that goes from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery.
Okay. And so how noticeable was the civil rights activity in that area?
Not too much at that time, because this was 63. Okay, and it was in the summer of 63. The only thing that we noticed is that, you do not get in rides with people that, unless they're white. You do not go in the same doors. It was all there, and this was stuff that I had learned in high school. Went in this year and out the other year. After the test was over, and I thought, my God, this is for real.
That was your water bottle.
No, sorry about that.
All right. Okay. Now your glasses.
Forget them.
All right.
Forget them.
So, okay. But in Texas, you really hadn't noticed it.
No.
Okay.
Well, we weren't allowed out in Texas. You were on the base.
Yeah, and it was a big base, and the Air Force had been more effectively integrated for a long time than
Extremely.
the other branches.
Right.
Yeah, but then once you're in smaller communities on smaller bases, and you're going to go off base more, then
Exactly.
that's
Plus, we were in the deep south then.
that's the reality of it. Okay. Now, did you have black servicemen training along with you?
Yes.
Okay. And were they from the north or the south, or you not know?
I don't really remember,
Okay.
to be honest with you. I think most of them were from the north, because the whole group from Michigan was on a plane that went to Texas for basic training. So.
Okay. All right. So the black servicemen on the base, then they were told what to do and not to do.
Exactly. They were warned, to be honest with you. You just be careful, don't go here, don't go there, don't do this. And of course, you kind of, when you've been taught to be a team, and now all of a sudden you can't be one, what's going on here? But again, that was something we'd only read in books.
Right. Okay. All right. So you have that's a 13-week course then in Alabama, and then at this point now, are you ready to go on duty?
Right now, then you go to a permanent duty station.
Okay. And so what's your first assignment then?
First assignment was Elmendorf Air Force Base in Anchorage, Alaska.
Okay. How did they get you up there?
We took a train, believe it or not, from Muskegon to Washington, and then on the commercial aircraft.
Okay. All right. And what kind of facility were you at there? The Elmendorf, what did they have by way of hospital, clinic?
Elmendorf was the big hospital in Alaska, the referral hospital. It was kind of unique because there was Fort Richardson, which was a big Army post, and then there was Elmendorf Air Force Base, and then in the middle of the two of them, off base, was a hospital. So we didn't even live on base, so we loved it. It was a 7-story hospital. It was a big referral hospital. I was an OB technician. We got all the referrals from Selgatna and Stewart and up in Fort Rich and all over Alaska.
And so you're dealing basically with the wives of military personnel.
Right.
Okay. And so what was your routine like when you were up in Elmendorf? Day to day, what went on?
Get up in the morning, go to work. At the time, we didn't have all these disposable things that we have. I was a delivery room technician. Okay. They deliver the baby, we take it, wipe it off, take care of its eyes, do anything that you do of that nature. And then you had to make up kits, put all the chemicals or so in them, because we didn't have all that nice disposable like you do now. There's a lot of cleaning, a lot of washing. Had a good time, except for the earthquake.
Earthquake, okay, talk about that.
Oh, wow. When it's cold and it's like 20 below zero, there's two things you can do. You can sleep or you can play cards and drink. Okay? So it was Good Friday afternoon. We were all playing cards. No problem. We just had a good time, but getting ready to go to chow. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking, I had way too much to drink. We got to stop right now. But when the books started falling off the bookcase, we knew it wasn't us. So somebody yelled earthquake, because a bunch of guys from up north really aren't too many earthquakes in Michigan. So the first thing I could think of was to grab a parka, because I'm thinking flying glass. So we got out the door and we turned. We were on the second floor of this big brick building, a dorm, and the walls were waving back and forth. I didn't know concrete could move that way, and the floors were doing the same thing, because I got knocked over twice by a wall, literally. And we got outside, and it was kind of funny in a way, because the cars were bouncing up and down and smacking into each other. And how do you tell your insurance man, this guy ran into my car, but there was no driver? And the hospital was built on rollers, and it moved 7.5 inches. We were on the second floor, and where the seams were in the hospital, you could look up to the 7th floor and see sunlight. So we moved all the patients and went to California. And then we put me on the chopper, went down to Stewart, and went down to Selgatna. I don't know, it's been a while, to work down there to help them out. And it looks like somebody had dropped a bomb. It's tidal wave had just wiped everything out. And of course, that wiped out a lot of things at the base also. There's no one hurt on the base. I know there were a few people killed in downtown Anchorage while their control tower at the airport went over.
Okay.
But it was a really unique experience.
All right. But then did you stay in Alaska for the full time that you would have been there? And do you eventually go back to Elmendorf or not?
I'm sorry?
Did you go back to Elmendorf eventually?
Only on my way to Vietnam.
Oh, okay. All right. So you were basically... So that hospital needed to be seriously repaired before anybody was going to use it.
Yeah, but we were back in it in a week.
Okay.
It was just amazing how it still stood. But yeah, so we lived up there in February of '65. I went to Wilford Hall Hospital as a patient, and then after I got out, one of the fellows that I had worked with in Alaska on OB was there and said, "Well, I told him you're here, and they've already assigned you here, so you get out of the hospital."
Okay. So why were you a patient?
They thought I had a brain tumor.
Okay.
And you put the light in this here, and it came out this here, and they said, "It's no problem." Okay. But yeah, they sent me down as a patient because the neurologist, neurologist up in, there's only one in Alaska. And she was 8 months pregnant, and she wasn't seeing patients, so they sent me down.
Okay. Did you just have headaches or symptoms they didn't understand, and so they sent you down? Okay. So that basically became your next assignment.
Right.
All right. And were you doing then the same work you had done in Alaska?
Right, because I needed an OB tech, and I had done it, and a fellow's name was Sanchez that I knew up in Anchorage, and he was my trainer up there.
Mm-hmm.
He just told them that this guy's here, and they went to whomever they did. Here I am, and it was fine with me.
Okay.
You know.
All right. And so was basically life in San Antonio pretty much
Yeah,
the same as up in Alaska, except warmer?
warmer. I enjoyed it. I mean, it's just, again, it's something different that I had never done before, and of course, the original memory of San Antonio wasn't probably the most pleasant, being in basic, excuse me, basic training, although it was, but yeah, I was okay. But San Antonio met my downfall.
You'll have to explain that.
So we had a good time. We enjoyed San Antonio. Yeah, weekends we'd go down to Padre Island on the Texas Gulf Coast and just park the car on the beach, and you get all the shrimp you could eat for $4.95. It was fabulous.
All right. Now, how far into that time was it when you met your wife?
Oh yeah, put me on the hot seat. I don't know how much. Well, we got married in July. Going together the Christmas before. I'd say probably in the fall sometime, wouldn't you? Because if you came in '65, I didn't get there till February of '65. So probably towards the fall or so.
All right. And how did the people you worked with, was it normal for, people to meet up and get connected or whatever?
You trying to say officers and enlisted? Is that
Officers
what
and
you're
enlisted,
going for?
or for that matter, even.
Oh yeah. I mean, we'd go down to Padre Island and we'd put it on the bulletin board. Go on to Padre Island, got 2 seats, call us by 4 o'clock Friday, and a couple guys or 2 ladies would hop in and we'd take off for Padre Island.
And was it fairly common for the women to marry servicemen, whether officers or enlisted?
Well, I didn't really pay any attention to it until, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Although after we were married in our apartment, when I left for Vietnam, there were 3, 4 couples, all enlisted with officers' wives.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you were, Lackland didn't have the base housing anyhow, but if you're enlisted an officer, you can't live on base.
Right. Okay. Now, had you lived on base until you got married? Or?
In the dorm.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me.
All right. So initially you're working and you're doing this OBGYN stuff and so forth. So how do you wind up going to Vietnam?
I volunteered.
Okay. And what motivated that?
I saw these newsreels and I saw these guys doing these things, and I thought, yeah, what are you going to do? You're going to get out of the Air Force. I said, what did you do in the Air Force? I helped deliver babies. Oh, really? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's like being a male nurse, I guess. But anyhow, so yeah, I just did it, and I was brought up in that generation where your daddy's good little soldier, right? And you're an American, and you respect the flag, and you owe an obligation to your country because you were fortunate enough to be born an American and free. And my dad would tell me about some of the stories, the kids and how hard they had it in Italy when they were stationed there. And so, yeah.
So okay, so you felt like you in some ways weren't really doing your duty if you were just doing this, or?
Yeah, really. I mean, anybody else could have done it.
Mm-hmm.
And something to be done on the outside, and yeah, just.
Okay. So when did you basically make that decision to go to Vietnam, or to at least request that?
About 6 weeks before I went, because they were really starting to pull in '65.
All right.
Okay, or 66. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. And so when do you actually go to Vietnam?
8th June or 7th. Holy cow! 50 years ago today.
That would be
Wait,
that would be
wait a-
69. So
Okay,
so you went
let's
60.
do the math.
You went in 67.
I went in '67, right?
Okay.
Okay, so we're talking 52.
That's 52 years.
Somebody's getting old. It ain't me, but somebody is.
There we
Yeah,
are.
52 years ago today.
Okay. Now, did they do anything to prepare you for Vietnam?
Yeah, down at Lackland Air Force Base, they had what they called a Vietnamese village. Down there was a creek that goes behind the base. There's heavy foliage, and they set up a Vietnamese village there. And then we all went out and trained with M16s, okay? And then after that, we had to go through this village, and we were told about punji sticks, tripwires, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we were all killed every time because we tripped every wire, and we were all killed. Because I had guys that, when you get shot at here, everybody turns this way, which is stupid because you got 4 more guys over here, and shoot you in the back.
Yeah.
Medical people,
Yeah. Well, you weren't trained as infantry,
right,
or even
exactly.
as combat medics. So, okay. So you get okay. Did they try to tell you anything about the culture or how to behave over there and that kind of thing?
Right, and even after you got over there, there was a lot of that in MACV. But yeah, they tried to teach, and guys that had been there also.
All right. Okay. So you weren't going over totally blind anyway. So they.
When I got there, I found out how blind I really was.
Okay. All right. So then, how do they get you to Vietnam?
We went on what we call the cattle car, a commercial chartered 707.
Okay. And where did you fly out of?
I flew out of San Francisco because I went to San Antonio to San Francisco, where I met a couple of her friends from college.
Mm-hmm.
And they took me all through parts of San Francisco, and then they took me to the airport. And then we went from San Francisco, we went to Anchorage, Alaska to refuel. And then from there we went across the big pond to Yokota Air Force Base in Japan and refueled. And then we went into Saigon.
Okay. And what was your first impression of Vietnam when you got there?
Hot and humid.
All right.
I mean, it just hit you like a wall.
So you'd been in Mississippi and Alabama and Texas, and this was different?
Oh my gosh, yes. The super humidity. Of course, we had left Texas in June, so I mean, it was like it was cold time, I think, but it was, you could just feel it just hit you. And it was at night when we landed.
Okay. And where did you land in Vietnam?
Tan Son Nhut.
Okay, so that's outside of Saigon.
Correct.
Okay. And then what happens to you? Get off the plane, now what?
They put you in the barracks. Got up in the morning. The guy comes by, he's got this list where you're going. I mean, it was Air Force, Army, whatever. It was all officers enlisted. The only good thing about the flight to Vietnam is Jonathan Winters was on the plane.
Okay.
And we had a blast. He was funny. He told us, gentlemen, there's a full bird colonel here. He gets off first. That's military protocol. And if he gets shot, we're all getting the hell out of here. The whole plane just roared. He was really great.
All right. And now, what's your assignment then? You get to Vietnam.
Okay, they tell me you're going to MACV. Wait a minute. It's not what it says on this orders. It says MILFAP Team 557. Sutton, Michael W. Yep. You're in MACV. Right. What's a MACV? Military Assistance Command, Vietnam, of course. So they told me, you got to go here, you got to be there at 10 o'clock, this building, because we were in a MACV compound. Okay, now I looked at the door, and there's 2 Army guys, the MP standing there, real dudes, and it says secret. Well, I obviously don't belong here, so I'm watching these officers, colonels and majors walking in. You said, yeah, F-169-6298, yeah, get in there.
Okay.
And I'm looking around, there's only about 3 enlisted guys there with all these officers. And they're telling me about bombing runs, and they're telling me about this thing and this threat from the Viet Cong. I'm thinking, I'm a medic, I deliver babies, what am I doing here? I want to go home. And so they said, okay, here's your briefing, here's all your stuff. There's a C-130, we'll take you to it. It leaves at 8 o'clock tonight. Go get your weapon. Okay, fine. So I go to get, okay, give me my M16, automatic M1 carbine from Korea.
Wow.
All right. Treat just like teaching somebody how to drive a Volkswagen and giving them a Ferrari. What am I doing? And they give me all this equipment. So I get on the back of the C-130, and the guy says, okay, we take off, and then loadmaster, the crew chief, whatever, comes up to me and says, we're going to be landing. We're going to take the airplane, we're going to turn it around, back will be open. As soon as it turns around, you jump off. We're going to throw your stuff off. There's a light bulb over there. Run for it. Well, needless to say, scared to death, right? I thought I was a big bad hockey player. So we landed, and we were on, first thing I noticed, we were on PSP. We weren't on cement. I don't know if you know what PSP is.
It's a metal matting.
Right.
Yeah.
Perforated steel plank.
Mhm.
Okay. So they throw myself off, and they were gone. That pretty much blew me over. So I picked up this stuff, and I said, well, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. So I took off running. You know, I heard Sutton over here. So I went over there, and there's 2 Army guys with a Jeep and a trailer. Puts us up in the trailer. Says, is that thing loaded? I said, well, there's a clip. You just put it around in the chamber, take off to safety, and if it moves, shoot it. And we went running down this road, no lights, one village, and we got to this MACV base camp. And there were other Air Force people there. They were living there because they worked in this hospital I was assigned to.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Vietnam.
All right. So when it gets light and you can look around, what do you see? What's there?
Well, we're in this very basic camp. I'm with this fellow who's been there a while, and I talked to him a lot. He told me what to do and what not to do and things of that nature. And it was a quiet night. There was no alarm. And it's like just a camp with a bunch of wire around it,
Mm-hmm.
Vietnamese guards, obviously. A long building, which was the mess hall and a movie place, and then a building over here, which was where they did all their admin, and then the barracks.
Okay. So where were you?
That's what I was asking myself. We were outside at this time. We were outside the city of Phan Rang,
Okay.
which I don't know if you know where Phan Rang is.
Could you just, well, South Vietnam is a long country.
Right.
And so,
Cam Ranh Bay,
Yep.
the Trang,
Yep.
Phan Rang.
Okay.
We were along the seacoast. It was a base for F-100s. The Koreans were there and the Australians were there also.
Okay. So you're near the coast rather
You
than
bet.
being inland or in the highlands or things like
Yes,
this.
yes.
Okay. And so you have an Air Force base there.
Right.
Okay. And that's why you're there as an Air Force
No.
medic.
No.
Oh no, you have a different job. Okay.
Yes.
What is your job?
Okay. Well, they started me out in the hospital, and then you have the base camp, and you have 4 subsectors. Okay. Over in this village, you've got Alpha, Baker, Charlie, and Delta,
Mm-hmm.
and then you communicate in. She's going to hear a lot of stuff that she doesn't know about.
Okay.
Because we don't talk about it. Okay. So they were losing medics, and they were pulling these guys that had experience to other areas that were really, really hot.
Mm-hmm.
Which, and they asked me, would you go out to Alpha Base until the Army medic comes in?
Mm-hmm.
None of the other guys wanted to go. You're gun ho, we're not. I don't know where that came from.
Mhm.
Yeah, right. So okay, fine. So we went out there, and the Army medic was due in about 3 weeks. He showed up. 3 days later, we were coming back with the mail, and a sniper put a bullet through my side of the windshield. It missed me, but caught him,
Mm-hmm.
and he was killed. So then I stayed until the next medic was supposed to be due in. He was there maybe a week, and he was so psychologically destroyed, I guess you would call it. They sent him back to the States.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then, by that time, I had integrated with these 6 Army guys, got to know a fellow named Alper, who was an old milk farmer out of Wisconsin, and same rank, and I just going to stay here. Yeah.
Okay. So what is the actual job? Are these people working with Vietnamese troops
Yes.
as advisors? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Our actual job, mine was, first of all, to take care of the people, take care of the people in the 6 other personnel.
Right.
Shot records. My job was sanitation. My job was to make sure the food was good, the water was good, besides combat medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other job was to work with the Vietnamese people in health care, teaching their people combat medicine, but things like, God, we put out so much DDT, you couldn't believe it. They killed the rats. They killed the plague. I would hold a sick call. When we would go there, the advisors would be working with whatever they were working with, small arms or whatever. And my job then, I would hold a sick call. And as my interpreter, we'd bring a dentist with us, and they were just thrilled to death. They really were. With the kids, we always made sure we had candy with us for the kids. Bought soccer balls, stuff like that. But that was we had 32 hamlets we did that with, especially the mountain arms, up in the mountains.
Okay, so you are getting inland then, going up into the hills and that kind of thing. And you talked about there were snipers and things like that. Were there other kinds of threats, either from mines or other attacks or VC?
Well, when we were in the jungle, you also looked for trip mines, right? Tripwires.
Yeah.
We would go on these ambushes at night, and then you'd watch for the tripwires. You'd watch for. But the worst thing about going on an ambush at night, when you're laying in the jungle, just as quiet as can be, and you feel something crawling over the back of your legs. Yeah, because you're a heat source to a reptile. Okay, and you can't make any noise. You can't make anything. With a trip.
How often did you do that kind of thing?
Probably 2 or 3 times a month. It would depend on the threat that they perceived or whatever. We would also go in there after a local village got hit. Okay? We worked what they called the rough puff. It would be like if you go home tonight and the people in your block put concertina wire around your block and you protect your own land. Very big, Minuteman.
Yeah. These are sort of like a militia. These are Vietnamese people. They're not full-time military, anything like that, but they're supposed to be the local defense forces.
Right, exactly. And that's basically what we worked with. I didn't work with any regular army we lived in a Vietnamese garrison. Okay. And it was unique because in our backyard there was a JP4 line and also the jungle, and we had mountain arch protecting our back because we didn't trust the Vietnamese.
Okay.
To be very honest with you.
Okay. So when you're dealing with the regular, most of the local population would have been just the ethnic Vietnamese because you're in the coastal area. Yeah. And you weren't sure of them one way or the other?
I didn't trust anybody.
Okay. And how were the Montagnards different?
Montagnards were treated by the Vietnamese like we treated the black man 250 years ago. Okay, one fellow had been in the army, I think 30-some years, and they were promoted. They had nothing to do with them. They were scouts. The Montagnards didn't like probably us any better either. They were their own people, and but they liked us better than they did the Vietnamese. Once we gave them plenty of ammo. One Sunday we got 2 helicopters and brought up 400 fruit trees. And they did a lot of basket weaving, okay? And in each one of those trees they had weaved something to protect it so that the animals, because they got animals walking around all the time, pigs and chickens and all that, okay? The chief's daughter got burned, and they put, she had second-degree burns on her legs, and they put cotton balls all over it. But you can imagine trying to get that off. So we brought her down by chopper, and we used a gallon of Physahex, and we got her legs cleaned and bandaged her, and that was the chief's friend. We have a picture of him and me. He comes up to here. But some great pictures of their children playing and so. But they were, we could pretty well trust them. The only thing with them is that when you gave them an automatic weapon, they only knew one thing: pull the trigger until it was empty.
All right. And then did you actually go in the field with them at all or patrol with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't live with 6 other guys and stay home all the time while they go out. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll tell you the stupidest thing I ever did. Now, it was fun at the time. On the air base, we had FAC planes, O-1 single-engine aircraft. Sunday afternoon, well, we didn't fight the war on Sunday because the Vietnamese don't fight on Saturday and Sunday, okay? So I'd go to the air base, and, come on, Sarge. So I get in the back, and my elbows would be outside the airplane. Here's the flaps and everything. Here's my weapon. Going up, trying to get, hopefully we get shot at or find Charlie, so the guy could put in an airstrike so I could get some good pictures. That's dumb. I mean, that is pure unadulterated stupid. Okay? God, I can't believe I did that.
Did you find anything?
Oh, yeah. One time we were going along and all of a sudden, pink, pink, and I looked and there was 2 holes in the flap. I told you, we got out of there in a hurry. Because all we got on is 2 Willie P. White phosphorus marker grenades, okay,
Right.
and then a 30 caliber machine gun with a box of ammo.
Yeah. Well, your plane's an observation plane, really.
Right,
It's not
right.
designed for actual combat.
Exactly.
All right. I don't know, did you call it an airstrike for that, or was that just a sniper fighter? Or
I
something?
don't know. I can't remember. I didn't get any pictures,
Mhm.
if that's what you mean. No. And I know we got out of there in a hurry, and that pilot was kind of white-faced when I saw him. I don't know if he was one of the newer guys, because I don't remember his name. Because I always wanted to go fly with him. There was a pilot of an O-1E by the name of Sutton. And he really a nice guy, Captain Sutton. But no, I never got any air pictures.
All right. So the bigger picture here. So basically, you were sent out originally with the idea that you were going to be a medic for the Air Force Base.
Right.
And you simply volunteered to take this other duty assignment because they needed medics, period, and off you go with that. All right. Now, the enemy in the area, as far as you know, were they basically Viet Cong?
Yes.
Okay. So you're not aware of any North Vietnamese?
No, there were.
Okay. So there were Koreans and Australians on the base.
Right.
How much did you see of them, or what
Quite a
impression
bit.
did you have?
There were the Koreans, there was white tiger, one more time, the Royal, no, Tiger Division, I can't remember the first, and the Australians were the Royal, I can't remember the last name. Anyhow, yeah, the Australians had Canberra bombers. They bombed at night, okay. The Americans had the 2-seat Canberra bomber, which was they used in daylight.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Rocks, they went out and did their thing too out there. Crazy people, but love to have them with you.
Okay. Describe the Koreans a little bit.
They did something I could never do. They all loved to drink warm tab. Yeah, you got it. No way. White Horse Division, that's what they were. No way. Good guys, we go talk to them. Their discipline was unbelievable. It really was. A couple of their people got drunk one night and mortared the air base by mistake. Had the tube turned the wrong way in. But they told us some severe discipline for that. But they were, you could count on them. And they hated the Vietnamese. Nobody liked the Vietnamese because we worked with a Japanese civilian contractor. We worked with the Koreans, all the Oriental people we worked with. All of them hated the Vietnamese.
So what was the Japanese civilian contractor doing there?
Water, piping, stuff like that.
Okay.
And one night they blew up his house. And it wasn't the Viet Cong.
Oh. Well, of course, the Japanese had occupied the place
Exactly.
during World War II, and there was probably some
Exactly.
bad blood there. But yeah, all right. And what impression did you have of the Australians?
Great people. I found out that a beer can is not this big, it's this big. It's called Foster's.
Mm-hmm.
And we worked with them a couple times. They just good people. They really were, and they were the one responsibility that we had for the air base was that we had the southeast corner because that's where the jungle was, and it's also where the Army had all the big rubber bladders of fuel for their Hueys.
Mm-hmm.
But they were really, really good people. We'd go to their club. They'd come to our club. And by the club, I mean our hooch.
Yeah.
And not a regular club. We weren't allowed to go there.
Okay. And I guess for the most part, what were your? But mostly you're out in villages. You're not on the base.
No, we're not on base at all.
All right. And then was there how much enemy activity was there during the period when you were in that area?
No, the air base
Well,
where we were.
well, yeah. I mean, you got your year. I mean, how much?
I'd probably I couldn't tell you really. I mean, it wasn't daily because we were going and we'd go periods of time with nothing, and then it would proverbial stuff would hit the fan. A lot of our stuff happened at night because we did a lot of work at night. I was going to bring 2 pictures for you. I've got 2 pictures of me in uniform, one in jungle fatigues and one in black pajamas.
All right.
Because we did pop the fence a couple of times.
Explain that.
Oh, okay. Cambodia, Laos, West Vietnam. And every time we went to only North Vietnam once, but we went to Cambodia and Laos quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit, a few different times. And most of the time we picked up LRPs, long range reconnaissance patrol people. And if you've ever seen the movie Apocalypse Now, that's them. And I can understand 100% why their job.
Okay. So, if you're going out, these frontier regions were some distance away from where your regular base was. So
Right.
how did you wind up doing that? Was it just something the MAC?
Someday somebody's going to tell me that. All I got is the major would come and say, Doc, they want you to go to the air base. First realized when we popped the fence, we were going in gray helicopters that said Air America on the side. So that should answer a lot of questions right there. Right? And the black uniform for that reason. But one time we went there and the injury was to the guy's dog. And we fixed his dog up and came back home.
Okay.
And you weren't there and you were here all night long?
Okay. So you're pulled out of your regular unit assignment to go on these trips. So
Right.
So it's not like your team or whatever goes as a group.
No.
But you're attached to these.
I made the mistake. At downtown Phan Rang, there was a group of Chinese nuns. Now, we're not talking religious nuns, okay? We're talking guys my size, all convicted felons, all coming out of Taiwan. There were 3 CIA guys down there, okay? They got me probably one of the most valuable pieces of material you could get in Vietnam, and that was jungle fatigues with a zipper fly. Because if you walk through those creeks and so, you got leeches. But if you got your pants tied, you get zipper, and you got this tied, and these are, and they were tiger stripe fatigues also, which was I did some great trading with that stuff. So I get to, hey, Doc down here, Doc, and keep his mouth shut, and out we went.
Okay. So did you kind of move around a lot by day and go to places?
No, we moved around mostly by night.
Yeah. But I mean, when you weren't like on sort of the edge of the fighting, but just generally, you got into Phan Rang, or you would go into towns at all, or things like that, or would you just go there if you were on a trip to get supplies, or?
We usually went to Cam Ranh Bay, and that's where I pulled the greatest thing of my life. I stole a 2.5 truck full of supplies.
Okay.
What had happened in this late, especially after Tet, all of a sudden instead of bargaining, GI's bargaining. I've got this, you got this, she's got that. I need some of what you got, but you need some of what she's got. So we trade, and everybody's happy. Well, being the Vietnamese unit, we didn't have all these fancy things. And on the front of the Vietnamese vehicle, they spray painted yellow about this long, and then the 6 numbers. When we'd go to Cam Ranh Bay, we'd have air cover, O1E, with a 2.5, or I'm sorry, with the 10.5 in the trailer. Well, we get too much stuff. First of all, the guy says to me, he says, I can't do this stuff anymore because I got this requisition, and you guys don't have a cost center, and you know how that goes. Officers, here we go again. So we'd always walk in with an AK-47 or something like that, because these guys never got off the base. Okay, understand, sir. Can I leave this here while you go to the little boy's room? Sure, no problem, Sergeant. So I'd go and make sure I was going at least 10, 15 minutes. I'd come back. He wouldn't be there. The weapon wouldn't be there. But there'd be a clipboard with some nice papers on there. And we'd go, give me 6 of those. Because he had already signed it. And that's how we got along. Well, we got too much stuff. So we worked with the security police. They needed 80 millimeter mortars for security, because only the Army's got them. We needed a vehicle. So we talked to the guys in Phan Rang, because they would all come to our place. And I can't tell you that on the Anyhow, they would all come to our place. So they got a hold of the guys up there and said, these guys need a 2.5. Well, come on, we know we're one that's been stolen. So we went over there, and of course there's no keys. They all got chains, right? So they put a 6-pack here, a 6-pack here. We popped the chain, took the chain off, took it around the corner. They gave us a can of yellow paint. We put in 6 phony numbers, waited to the last possible moment, and then we hit the gate. But the fellow in front of me, of course, had all the papers. Opera did. So the guy comes up to me, and I know they're here. Opera, you got those papers? Oh, no. There's our air cover. Oh, when he, and we really got, all right, never mind, guys. Go ahead and go. I don't get you home before dark. And so we stole the deuce and a half. Looked like a champ. Got home, the old man says, we're going to bring the truck back. We got a problem. And he looked at me, oh, God, no, I don't want to know about this. So we ended up giving it to the cops.
Oh, well.
Everybody takes care of everybody.
Okay, so you gave it to the MPs? Or?
Yeah, security police.
Right.
Right.
All right. So then you were there then when the Tet Offensive started. Okay. How did that affect things in your area?
Well, the first couple of days we were in Hawaii.
Okay.
When it started. I was up there when it started. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. Boy, somebody loves you to get you over here. We got back, landed at Tan Son Nhut. When I understood, the guy said, well, that's the last bird we're letting in. Okay, fine. So then instead of even checking with anybody, I just looked down the flight line, and we had C-123s, K-models that came out of Phan Rang. They had WA, that was their color. So I just ran down there and said, hey, I'm from Top Town. I told them who I am. Get on board, Sarge. And that's when we got back. They had, I had lost my bedroom, and we had lost part of the village around us because we had a 55-gallon drum of gasoline. And with the hose, and that's how we filled up the Jeep. And I guess a mortar or something hit that, and we burned down the village. And the only way to decorate a Christmas tree is the mortar. Does a beautiful job.
I'm sure. So were any of the men in your unit hurt?
No.
At that time?
Not at that time.
Just part of that facility at that point. Okay. To back up, why were you in Hawaii? No.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. It's called rest and relaxation. After you were there for so many months, you got put on the list, and we waited until 8 months. We could have gone at 5 or 6, but I figured once I got there and got back, I didn't want to be in Vietnam that much longer. So, matter of fact, that day I was number 5 on the airplane. Because once we go to Vietnam, or once we go to Hawaii and come back home, or come back to Vietnam, it better be a short period of time.
Okay.
I waited as long as we could.
All right. And you went to Hawaii because you were married, so you could meet your wife there.
Either that or the divorce lawyer. Take your pick. Yeah, right. Well, we spent our first anniversary in Vietnam. July 1st, 1967. I was in Vietnam, so yeah.
Yeah.
You bet.
Okay. And that's one of the peculiar things about the Vietnam War is every person's story depends a lot, not just on what unit they were in, but when they were there and when exactly the R&R was, or they were someplace else. Because that day they're missing, something could happen. And in your case, you missed the beginning of Tet.
Right.
Now, did they tell you much about what happened that first night, or?
When I got back?
Yeah.
We were all in a bunker. And our bunker was above ground because we were close to the South China Sea, and the water level, of course, was very high. So it was all made out of granite blocks, and then they had sandbags, and then in front of that, about 10 feet out, we had page fencing because that would break up WPGs. So, yeah, they just, I mean, I could see the damage, and nobody at that time had been hurt, so that's what you care about.
Yeah. And then were operations or things any different when you got back, or were you still doing pretty much the same things as before?
We were pretty much doing the same thing because Phan Rang, that area wasn't hit that hard. Okay, so somebody just lucked out when they popped in a few motorcycles, but it wasn't hit like the Way or Tan Son Nhut or places like that. It was not. I don't think Phan Rang was even hit at all. I mean, the city.
Yeah. Okay. Now, and while you were there, I mean, do you have any impression of how the war is going, or were you successful or not, or could you tell?
From being there, or from newspapers?
While you were there.
Okay, while I was there, you have to realize, of course, all news was censored. Stars and Stripes, best propaganda paper ever put out. And we'd look for it. Didn't hardly ever see it. And when I was there, it was, I don't know, because we were not so isolated, but we weren't in contact like on a base all the time, or with these people. And when we were there, I can tell you a couple incidences of where we got called the VC, just came across the road going into the jungle. So we get all our 4 of us and the Vietnamese lieutenants, and so get their people together. We go down the road to where they cross. So we get to this village. It's all shut up, so you know something happened. Because at night, people are out. It's hot, you know, and they're starting to cool off, and they're talking. And this was all shut down. And you get to a man, and he comes out and he tells them, yeah, that the 12 VC came across here, and they went up here towards the jungle. Well, that jungle is the southwest corner, like I told you, or southeast corner of the air base, and all those bladders are there. Okay, fine. Let's go up this way. No, we're going this way. Why aren't we going this way? Very dangerous. So we didn't go that way. A little bit later, a few mortars hit the air base. And told me right then and there, there's something really, really wrong. And we talked to the Hun pilots, F-100 pilots, on the air base and the in Spooky, and we put in Spooky probably 2-3 times a week. And I don't know, I just thought, people don't seem to be too interested. Of course, they've been through the Japanese, they've been through the French Indochina. That's all these people have known.
Yeah.
Why should they trust anybody?
Okay. Now you mentioned Spooky. Explain what that was.
Oh, okay. Spooky is a DC-3, also known as a C-47 military, that has 3 miniguns, and they fly in a cone shape. And we would get a target, we'd call Spooky 6-2, give them the coordinates, they would go in there, and then they would spray that area with their miniguns. And they also had big flares, million candle power flares that they would drop.
And the miniguns are high-powered machine guns, essentially.
Right, 6,000 rounds a minute, times 3.
Yeah, they just chew up anything.
They can basically make a pass on a football field and put a bullet in every square foot, as we were told. And we got back, and years later at Lackland Air Force Base, I ran into the physiological training officer, and it turned out that he and I had talked. Because the navigators were radio operators on Spookies. Spooky 6-2, this is Alpha 7, ready to copy, target, you're clear to fire.
Okay, so you had that job of talking to them on the radio? Or?
If I was on radio watch at that time.
Okay. So with a small unit like that, everybody just takes turns with that kind of duty?
Right.
Okay.
No questions asked, and everybody does it, from them, except for the major right on down.
Okay. So did you spend a full year in Vietnam? Okay.
365 alive.
All right. And are there other particular things that happened there that kind of stand out in your memory that you haven't brought into the story yet? You think of being in Vietnam, what do you think of?
The 4 guys we lost. Okay. The kids, had a ball with the kids. We had a shoeshine boy, his name was Lloyd, that we took care of everything. His grandpa was fine, we took care of his food, we sent him to school, made sure he had all his shots and stuff like that. And there was such a difference in him compared to a 12-year-old that was smoking. I mean, you can see the difference that medicine makes. And the thing is, also, what was unique when we had sick call, like right now, if you get sick, the doctor says take 3 for 10 days. So I give you 30 tablets. If I do that with the Vietnamese, they'll sell them. But if I say, here's 3 tablets, take them each today, see me tomorrow, they'll take them religiously because they figure they're worth more than the 30 I gave them. So you had to learn that psychology, okay? But the kids, I had a ball with the kids, really. And of course, being tall and blonde, opposite of them, and knowing just a little bit of Vietnamese, just enough to get me in trouble. But yeah, we had a good time. And you remember basically the fun times. The time the captain, we came back from a 3-day ambush. Everybody's strung out, needless to say. We all hit the rack. And all of a sudden, there's M16s going off, and there's holes in the wall. Because our building's made out of concrete, and there's this much fencing for the hot air, and then a tin roof. And we're all going down, the major's going down there. Captain, what's the problem? And I'm not going to use the language. That fly just made me mad. He went after a fly with an M16. And we saw him in Izmir, Turkey, years later. He denied that story, and he never, when he saw him one time, he never came back, never showed up or anything else. Bruce. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
now, was it common for you? Do you have officers where you were, or were you mostly just with the sergeant and?
2 officers, 4 enlisted.
Okay.
A senior NCO, E7, and then there were 2 of us that were E4s.
Okay. All right. Okay. So your advisory unit had officers with it. So, okay. Now, did they rotate and come? Did the officers come and go?
They didn't. When I was at, well, Bruce did after he shot up that and almost got us in a firefight in our own backyard. They moved him out. They put in another officer. But the major was there all the time, but he was there. He extended.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So other than that, other than replacements, like Alper and I were the oldest guys there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next to the major.
Right.
Okay. But other than that, because it was a small unit, there's only 6 of us.
Did Opper stay the whole time you were there, or did he rotate out?
No, he extended 6 more months, and then that way he got this big bonus, and then he got out. Because he was just a simple old milk farmer up there from Wisconsin. Funniest guy you ever want to meet. Give you the shirt off his back.
Okay.
And he made it home.
All right. Now, as you started to get short, did that change your attitude or your behavior or your assignment, or did you just stay the same the whole time?
No, the major did.
Okay.
When you got down to 11 months, that was it. You weren't going out in the field anymore. And on the ambushes, I mean.
Right.
Obviously, I'm doing a regular job. But no, that was it. He says, I'm not writing any letters. You've been here 11 months, you deserve to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris well agreed with him.
All right. Now, at this point, were you figuring on just getting out of the Air Force when you got back, or?
Just figuring on getting home.
Okay. All right. And so what's the process then for getting you out of Vietnam?
Here's your orders. Be on the plane tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. Turn in your weapon. Turn in your fatigues. Get drunk. Get on the airplane.
Okay. And do you remember much about the flight out of Vietnam?
Oh, you don't forget that. You don't forget that. Yeah, a bunch of guys on the flight. We were all waiting, and if unfortunately you're standing there waiting to get on, and all these guys are getting off. And you think, God, I hope they all make it home. You know, because it's just unreal, especially after 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then there'd be officers and enlisted and everybody getting on board. And we got on board, and as soon as that aircraft broke ground, big applause. A lot of obscene gestures and words said, but that's it. They have that right.
Okay.
And then we flew into Yokota to refuel. And I think they even got JP4 for the gasoline. Everybody hit the liquor store, and I bought some silk and a tripod and I don't know what else. And we got on the airplane to go across on the big pond, and this full-bird colonel stands up. It says, "Gentlemen, the stewardess have asked me to remind you, only drinking allowed was provided by the aircraft or the
Airline.
airline, right? And there'll be no private drinking. Does everybody understand this? Way to go, men! You got a bottle of scotch in his hand. I mean, it was a wild party for about 3 hours, and then it went. And everybody was sleeping. And then we were about a half an hour out of San Francisco. Because the captain came across, and we started waking people up and said, "Gentlemen, I got good news and I got bad news." And we were, "What's the problem?" "We're not going to make it by 12 o'clock to San Francisco." Boo, hiss, throw the captain out, you know, but because of the jet stream, we're going to be there at 11 o'clock. Yeah, everybody. And he even made a pass by the Golden Gate Bridge because it was all lit up, and it was great. He opened up the door, and I froze my tushy off. It was only 80 degrees in San Francisco.
Okay. Now, at that point, let's see, do you have leave to go home or whatever? All
Right.
Now, when you're coming up, now we've made it into '68, and the protests and things have picked up. Did you see any protesters in the airports?
Oh, yeah. Big time. Matter of fact, just as you can't go to jail on this liability. Can we?
No,
Okay.
no.
We got off the aircraft, and we went through customs. Okay. And when I walked in there, I thought, my God, there's only one guy here. But all of a sudden, this wave of people came out, and all of them were opened up. So people really processed them fast. And how cool that is. Because the Army guys all had to go to Oakland. Okay. And I just had to go to the airlines. we got in there, we went through there, looking for a cab because I had to go to the other part of the airport. And there were two black guys who were going to the same place. I said, come on. Hey, they were both driving. So we all hop in a cab. And we're going there. We're almost there. And the cab said, where are you guys coming from? You got to be kidding me. I mean, here's your card, right? And don't you? Oh, I got some more baby killers on board, huh? And the black guy next to me, who was about twice my size, says, Air Force, I'll flip you for it. I said, well, you want to flip for it? Which one of us is going to kill him? He hit the brakes and took off running. And left that cab right in the middle of the road. And welcome to be home, you know?
Yeah.
And that was it. And so then we just went to the airport and got on board. Hadn't slept for I don't know how long. Had been drunk once and sobered up again. And sat down, and they moved me up to first class. I was sitting next to this folks. Hey, how you doing, mate? Oh, I got me an Aussie, you know? Doing fine. And then we were talking. The next thing I know, it just kept coming in. I wasn't paying for a thing. So then we went to Dallas. Went to Dallas first. And then we ended up at Dallas, is where I met her in D.C.
Okay. All right. And so is that where you were going to be assigned next, or?
No, I had an assignment for Bergstrom Air Force Base in Austin, Texas.
Okay. And so was she working in?
No, Carol had gotten out of the Air Force, and her parents live up in the mountains of Davis, West Virginia.
Right.
And that's where she was all the time. After she got out of the Air Force in May, it was that time period that she was just living up there with her family.
Okay. And so that was just sort of the nearest big airport to where she was, or the one that you chose to go to?
Right.
Okay. All right, fine. So you meet her there. So you've got a little bit of time off before you have to go to Texas, to Austin for your next assignment. Okay. All right. And then once you get to Austin, do you go back to doing OBGYN again, or what do you do now?
Right.
Okay. So what is it like to come back to the U.S. after that year of Vietnam?
I mean, the land of the round-eyed women?
Mm-hmm.
We were in West Virginia, and where Carol lives is absolutely, that's God's country. It is absolutely gorgeous. And it was a couple thousand feet up. You got the Blackwater Falls State Park. It's just, God, it was just beautiful. And the two things I remember, one almost getting killed by those guys in that car, remember? We had this beautiful 66 Pontiac convertible, hers 4-speed, the whole bit. And we're coming around the mountain, and I had read, or maybe she had told me about how many guys were killed because they let their guard down when they came back from Vietnam. We were coming around the curve, and this 56 blue Chevy went this way and this way. It was coming right for us, and I hit the, no, I think I stepped on the gas because we ended up behind us and rolled over in the ditch. And there were a couple of cars behind us, and he missed it. And this is a mountain down here. This isn't a lecture. And none of the kids were hurt. And I wanted so much to throw all four of those kids over that mountain, which was a horrible thing to say, but. And there were other people there, and Carol said, come on, let's go. They got witnesses, so we left. But I would sit up there, and the hard thing was to sit there, and it's absolutely gorgeous outside. And it's Thursday, well, it's my turn for radio watch. Wonder what the guys are doing. God, I hope they're okay. I wonder, you know, and wait a minute, was that a bad dream? You know, what the hell is going on? And you just sort of sit there and think, I don't know.
Did you have to readjust your language for being back in the States?
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. And I did it at the wrong place, at Mama's house. And we can't say that on TV.
Yeah. Well, you could here, but yes. But they're just certain commonly used words in Vietnam that you don't use so much over here, and they start with F.
Oh,
and
yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
And it was all the simple thing of please pass the butter.
Yeah.
But there was an extra word. Yeah, God, oh man.
All right. So at this point, how much time did you have left on your enlistment?
Almost end of it, but we extended for 3 months twice. Up to, so then I had a total of 5.5 years, and they said, you either got to re-enlist or you got to get out. And I asked them, what are my chances of going back to Vietnam? So, well, you're an advisor on that. I said, never mind. We got out.
Okay.
Got a glorious job at McDonald's cooking hamburgers. You will not come in this house until you take those greasy clothes off. Yeah.
So how long did that last?
Not very long, because I was going to the University of Texas at night, And then I went to work for Breckenridge Hospital, which was a general hospital. You all right? Starting to sweat?
Yes, no problem.
All right. And to work in their emergency room, you had to be a military medic, and preferably trauma. So we worked there for a while, and then we went to UT for a while. It just didn't. I don't know. It just didn't work out that good. But I had the energy that I have now going to school that I would have had there. I've always wondered why I threw that away. I still do. Because I went to the man and I said, okay, I've taken 3-night courses. I got 2 A's and a B. He said, where have you been? I said, Vietnam. I said, I've never taken an SAT test. I've never taken an ATC test. What should I study? What should I do to try to get in here? He goes, sign here. So what's this for? You just been admitted to the University of Texas.
Okay.
You know, you gotta be kidding me. And that was it. The one thing I did notice about when I was there was that this individual, I went and took my 214 at the veterans office so I could get the GI Bill, right? And I'm looking, and there's this table, probably as long as that bench there, stacked about this high. My God, are those all applications? She said, yeah, but none of them are honorable, so we'll lose them all. Because they had like 7,000 veterans going at that time. And of course, Texas was, oh my God, biggest hippie populations out of San Francisco. The Black Panthers were there, the Weathermen, you know who else are the Weathermen, the Breakfast Club, and you name it. Yeah. And it was all there. But it was a super experience.
All right. So basically, did you actually take it? But you didn't stay at the University of Texas very long, did you? Or,
About 2.5 years.
okay. Did you complete a degree? I guess.
No.
Okay. You didn't do that. All right. And so once you kind of quit school, then now what do you do?
We went to join the Air Force again.
Okay.
At the time, I was when I got out, I was a staff sergeant, E5. So I went to the recruiters, and he said, man, we got 465 people ahead of you, and we're taking about maybe one a month. Well, kind of ends that thing. Well, then they called Carol up because there were 2 ladies who were thinking about going to the Air Force, and they were nurses. And getting nurses and a doctor, they come over everything. Because you had to draft, you had to bury plan with doctors, and you had a lot of unhappy doctors. We had a doctor that refused to carry a weapon in Vietnam, okay, which made it hard on the enlisted guys. And they called up and said, would you talk to these 2 ladies? And she did. And I guess they both went in. And then they called me up and said, guess what, you just been bumped to number 1. I'm sorry, you got to know how to work the system. So we did, and we went back in as an E5. We got our base of choice. We went to Hampton, Virginia, which is across from Norfolk, because it was close to Carol's. Her mother was sick at the time. And they moved everything. It's like we'd never gotten out.
And now, what year is it that you go back into the Air Force?
72.
Okay. All right. And then describe now your first assignment once you come back.
First assignment was at Lackland Air Force Base. It was the headquarters to Tactical Air Command. There I worked in the emergency room because of my experience in Vietnam. It was just ambulance, teaching a lot of young people how to do the job. Also what we call buddy care, teaching some of these other units this buddy care, and also I was in charge of CPR, and we would hold classes for civilians, for officers' wives, for whatever, whomever.
All right. And were you living off the base because you were married, or?
Yes, we were off the base. We lived in Newport News, Virginia, and we had by that time added a little girl, Julie, and the 3 of us were living off base in a 2-story townhouse with a rent of $155 a month, and it was brand new. That would even cover the electric bill now.
Okay. All right. So how long did you stay there?
We stayed there until July of 1977.
Okay. Now, it's kind of a sort of a turbulent period that you're there. You're not far from Washington, D.C. and things like
Right.
that either necessarily, because you had the end of the Vietnam War and Watergate and all of that kind of stuff. The military at times also was also downsizing in varying degrees. Now,
Right.
how much of those external events or changes in the military had any effect on what you saw in the Air Force?
But you saw a lot of officers what they call reduced in force, and therefore became enlisted or got out.
Yeah.
We worked a lot. We had a big influence. Was with the wives of POWs, because being a headquarters TAC base, General Mollmeyer was a 4-star general there, and I think there were like 11 generals on base altogether. They had just brought in the F-15, because that was just after Vietnam. So that had a lot to do with it. Downtown, you didn't see because it's such a military area. Norfolk, Virginia, Portsmouth, Virginia, Fort Eustis up in Newport News, Langley Air Force Base. So you didn't see that much there. The biggest influence that I saw when I was there was during the Israeli 6-Day War. Because I came to work and all of a sudden there were machine gun nests at the front gate. Wait a minute, what's going on? These weren't war games. Because needless to say, the hospital gets involved in all war games. And just as we were waiting to get in, they were checking ideas. I looked up and there was a big jet aircraft coming in, and it was LL. But the logo on the vertical stabilizer had been painted out. You can see where the paint ran, because Langley was the closest base for Israel at the time for resupply. And there were guys in there were going 24/7. All sorts of aircraft going in, contract aircraft, LL, the whole bit, to supply them, because it was pretty serious for the first 5 days, as you well know.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you also mentioned sort of the wives of POWs. The POWs from Vietnam come back in '73.
Right.
All right. And did a lot of them process through Langley if they were Air Force, or were there just a lot of the families living in that area?
Yeah, there are a lot of families living in the support groups. They pretty much wanted to disperse. They didn't make a big deal of it, in a sense. I mean, you had Operation Homecoming, you had the C-141 on TV and so, but most of those guys just trying to get on with their lives, and there was some really, I got more involved with the POWs when we were in Germany and at Lackland Air Force Base, because these colonels then had been there. And being a senior NCO, you had interworking. And if you'd been to Vietnam, then there would be a conversation going on between a couple of them and myself and maybe another NCO, and you'd walk up and the conversation would immediately stop, because you hadn't been there. And it's just, that's all it was. You hadn't been to NAM, so therefore it's a brotherhood that it'd be nice if nobody belonged to, but it's a special group.
Right. Okay. And so you got that assignment then at Langley, and now is it routine to kind of change and go other places, or how does that work?
Yeah, the Air Force is pretty stable, and versus the Navy, the Army, or the Marine Corps. They're more family oriented. They're combat oriented, yes, but not in a. When you think of the Marines, you think of the sergeant. You think of the Navy, you think of the old chief. You think of the Army, you think of the sergeant. You think of the Air Force, you think of a pilot. Okay, it's a different level. The housing and so was always good. We stayed there 5.5 years.
All right. And when you left, was that your idea or the Air Force?
No, it was time to rotate.
Okay.
We went to Izmir, Turkey. And the whole family went. And that was a 2-year tour, because there was no base there. We did like embassy duty. We lived downtown Izmir. It was like everybody else did. Okay. There was an air base about 10 kilometers away. It was called Chile Air Base. It's a Turkish base. The air vac would come in twice a week, which we would have to go meet and put people on. If a woman was pregnant at 8 months, she had to go to Germany. Because if she had a boy, then he would be subject to the draft if he ever came back to Turkey. Okay. But the unique thing was when those aircraft landed, none of them said United States Air Force. They said the United States of America, and had a flag. There was no military emblems. Because that particular base, Chile, had Jupiter missiles, and that was the base Kennedy gave the missiles away from for Khrushchev to get rid of the missiles in Cuba.
Right.
So it was really, we went in there with ambulances, and the cross, like I told them, most people didn't know what the Red Cross meant because it's an Islamic country, and you're looking at a crescent,
Yeah.
because a cross would be proselytizing Christianity.
Okay.
So,
So basically, so you worked at a hospital in Izmir, was that or?
well, it was called a clinic.
Okay.
Okay, but sometimes we would keep people overnight until we could get them out the next day. It's just basically a clinic, a shot clinic, vets, because they had that commissary in there, and it was all pretty well disguised. Okay, it wasn't buried out. We were in an old Turkish building, and we only lived like 4 blocks away. We lived right in downtown Israel, which is just, it was, I'd go back. If it wasn't for the regime now, I'd go back to Turkey in a moment's notice. I loved it. No TV, no television, no phone for 2 years. Didn't miss it a bit.
Okay. So I guess if there wasn't really a big American military facility there,
No,
why?
NATO.
Okay.
The ships would come in, there'd be an American, a Turkish, an Italian, and an English.
So you're basically servicing people going through either from the ships or through the aircraft, or
No.
or do you just have personnel who
The
were there?
personnel that were there, we had worked there. You had the 17th Air Force, not 17th Air Force, 16th Air Force was there. A lot of it I don't know about. All I know, a good friend of mine was a Navy captain, and he represented a 3-star admiral. And there was so much of don't ask, don't tell.
Okay.
So I don't know, and what they told me was fine, and I was on E5 at the time. There'd be myself and a 2-striper, and we'd run the clinic from 7 in the morning, or 7 in the evening till 7 at night. No,
7 in the morning?
7 in the morning, excuse me, yeah. And the doors were, and what was really, it was a very safe place. It's probably one of the safest places Carol's ever been with children. But during May Day, the last 2 days in April and May Day, they weren't allowed out of their apartments. So there were big apartment parties going on. And we're supposed to blend in as civilian culture. I'm going to really blend in like a lake. I'm from the Mideast, right?
Yeah.
And there'd be a tank in front of the clinic, and there'd be a machine gun nest up on top of the clinic because of the big communist rallies at that time.
Yeah, because May Day is Communist Party Day.
You got it.
So you have
Right.
that there. So were your kids old enough to be in school?
Julie was. She was in the 1st grade, and this captain, naval captain, his wife was a 1st grade teacher.
Okay. So there was an American school there?
No.
Or
Well,
how
I'm
did,
sorry.
how did the school?
There's an they call it the Department of Defense school system.
Okay.
Okay, and it was in an old tobacco warehouse because there weren't that many students there. They had an old gym, and they said, "This is as long as halftime." Then everybody realized it was on a different cycle, so the clock was moving much slower. But things like that. There was a church there that they would use. We went to a Catholic service that was in an old building hidden. Okay, again, you could practice Christianity, but you couldn't proselytize Christianity.
Right.
Christmas trees were in the back of the house, no decorations on the windows.
Yeah.
Really, and it makes going to church a lot more fun when you know you're not supposed to do it. Gotcha. But the beggars would be out there every Sunday. They knew where those Christians were.
Okay.
It was a great place to live. It really was.
All right. But on the whole, basically, the local population was
Very friendly.
very friendly, positive. Yeah.
In our apartment building, we were on this floor. The next floor was a constitutional lawyer. He had 3 daughters, and then sometimes the mayor of Izmir would come over. And when he came over, there were gendarmes in the hallways, okay? And they would come down to ask my 2 daughters to say goodnight to Grandma and Grandpa up there. Both my daughters are blue-eyed blondes. And if somebody's big, like the mayor was there or something, they wanted him to come. They'd show them off, right? It's really interesting when you watch your 2 daughters walking down the hallway with armed guards in front and back with automatic weapons. It's a unique experience.
All right.
And they would never charge us money because they thought it was an honor to watch those children. And you could trust them to the max.
All right. Was that a 2-year stint?
Yeah, 2-year.
Okay. All right. And what comes after that?
Lackland Air Force Base, Del Rio, Texas. 150 miles due west of San Antonio.
All right.
Rio Grande.
Okay. And what was your job there?
Ran an emergency room, and then I went and ran the OB department, and then I went and got promoted and ended up being the senior NCO and the superintendent of all the enlisted in the hospital.
Okay.
Del Rio, out in the middle of nowhere, small town. It's a UPT base, undergraduate pilot training, because it had like 350 days a year of flying.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I did some flying down there, private pilot. And Carol Ann was the evening supervisor at the local hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And the girls were both in private schools because the public schools were so inundated. And so many of these young children didn't speak English,
Mhm.
and crying, and we just had to put them in private
Yeah,
schools.
you face that kind of choice. Okay, what's best for my kid? Or at that
Exactly,
point,
exactly. Not being racist, it's just that
Yeah.
I've got children that are going to be moving on, and they need, if I have a moral obligation to make sure that they have
Mhm.
a good education. And they've both been through and graduated from college now, so I didn't do too bad. Except for the old man. I don't know.
All right. And so, how long did you stay there?
Almost 5.5 years.
Okay. As you're going on through this sort of Air Force career, are you seeing any kind of changes in the culture or the way that people
Extreme.
think?
Extreme. You see, so much of this, it got to the point where I'm not an airman anymore, I'm an air person.
Mm-hmm.
It got almost ridiculous. It really did. In the 70s, you had everybody from the rank of colonel and below, full bird colonel and below, had to go to race relations in 72 and 73.
Mm-hmm.
What did you get out of this program? Well, first of all, why don't you talk about the real people that were discriminated upon, the Native Americans? Okay? Now, that wasn't a popular thing for me to say. And I had just been through all this social stuff at the University of Texas. These people didn't know what a hippie was. They didn't know who I saw Janis Joplin. She was from here to him performing. I mean, Hendrix and all those people. They had no idea of some stuff going on. But like in the Air Force, and they said, well, what did you learn most from the Air Force? Race relation programs. And I guess maybe you can call this ignorance, I don't know. But the most I learned from it was that a bunch of new names you call me and a bunch of new names I can call you. Because you never hear this. I mean, to me, I can't sit here and tell you, you can talk to me all day, but you're not going to change my mind if I can't have a reasonable argument. And this was really, it was so bad, it was unreal.
And you'd been in plenty of situations where people of different races had just worked together anyway.
Yeah, that's the whole point. I've worked with everybody, I'm sure, from every race, color, creed, ethnic origin, lived in the cultures in Turkey, Germany, Vietnam, What got me I'm on the city council at Roosevelt Park, and it's probably one of the things that got me voted. I don't work with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got the right to express their own idea and their own opinion. I may not agree, but that doesn't count.
Yeah. All right. But they were trying to modernize that. Now, were women doing more and more things over the course of the time you were in?
The last 5 years, especially when I was in Germany, being in a mobile tactical radar unit, and it got to the point, especially with the security police, the medics and the cops always work together.
Mhm.
Okay, I don't know how that started, but it does. Hey, I don't care if she's only 100 pounds. She's got the job. Equal rights, equal work. If you can't handle it, get out. Well, you're supposed to take care of her. Well, then that means I've got to let my guard down because I got to watch her plus me, so that puts me at danger. I don't want her with me. Well, that's discrimination. No, that's light. And there was so much about that. She's only 100 pounds, and most of the times the girls would, the females, pulled their own. She always had a few that but you got the same thing with guys too.
Mhm.
So with the guys, you can smack them around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there was a lot of that, big time.
They're still kind of just sorting out how to make it work and what doesn't, and a new set of variables to throw into the ones you already had.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. It's like right now, we were talking to a recruiter because I was looking up flag etiquette and basic training. You don't even make your own beds anymore. They got somebody come in and make their beds.
Wow.
You've got to be kidding. 6-inch white collar, bounce that quarter, perfectly 45 degree. Well, we're more technical now. Well, the course in the Air Force now, they want a year of college before you can even be enlisted.
Mm-hmm.
Things change.
Yeah. All right. And so, what were the dates of that stay at Del Rio?
Okay, July of '79
Mm-hmm.
until 84, February of '85.
Okay. And then do you go to Germany from there?
Right.
Okay, so talk about that assignment.
Okay, well, when I went, we got the assignment, I also had to go to what we call independent duty school. Site medic, whatever you want to call it. And the thing was, we spent nine weeks at Shepherd Air Force Base. 9 at senior NCOs. Most of us outranked instructor, which is no big deal. But I'm like, I've done this, son. Now you're going to send me to 9 weeks to school to teach me what I already know.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, well, this is the heart. There are two things that empty into the heart: the inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava. Well, you're wrong. You forgot the coronary solus, which comes into the right auricle. It comes out of the left one because it's got the richest blood, and that's the thing that fills the coronary system, which fills up the heart. Well, you don't need to know that much. We all threw stuff at him. And I'm sorry. Yeah. You want to talk about battle signs? Oh, okay, they send us to this so-called field training, right? And we're with nurses now.
Mm-hmm.
This big class, like Carol said, hers. Well, how do you take 4 people over the top of this wall, with the litter and so on, the patient stood there and said, you ready to go? And I looked at the major, I said, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. I said, they taught us the same crap in 1963 at Greenville Air Force Base. Well, Sergeant, you're supposed to duck lower so you don't make a profile. I said, listen, stupid. Excuse my French. You never go over anything, because then you break profile, and I'm going to put a 223 right between your eyes, or if I feel good, I just put it through your neck and paralyze you. And his kid's looking at you. Go around it, you go through it, or you go under it, but you never go over it. And the guys that did, you can go visit them in their graves. This major walked out. She said, this class is over with. I said, thank you, ma'am. She came back. She said, would you do some writing for us here to correct this? I'd be happy to. Then we all got drunk with her and everybody. Another story. But yeah, so we went to independent duty school.
Mm-hmm.
Drawing blood, filling a couple of teeth, setting a bone, taking care of burns, stuff we've done. Okay, and then we had to go to the hospital and pull sick call with the doctor. And we tell him everything. And he'd sit there with his coach and say, this is the best job I ever had. Senior, you got it all. And then after that, we went to Simbach, West Germany.
Okay.
Small little base, was a French base during World War II. It's outside of Kaiserslautern, which is a big military presence. Mm-hmm. And there's, my God, army all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And there I was, I went to a mobile tactical radar unit. Everything's on trucks. We go to the field, we dig holes, we set up concertina wire, we set up the scopes, they see the bad aircraft coming in, they vector in the good guys, and hopefully they all turn before anybody crosses the line.
Mm-hmm.
Because the wall and everything was still there. My job, of course, was everything. To do medically, food, records, you name it. I loved it. Loved it. No officers over me, no. The commander, you walk in the staff briefing, doctor, check out for me today. That's it. We're going to do this. Do it. Because you're in complete control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So really, we're having great rapport with all the people in the unit. There's a 603rd Tech Control Flight. Then they disbanded that because of the satellites.
Mm-hmm.
So they made me the inspector of all the IDMTs, the cruise missile guys, the site medics of Germany. So we did a lot of traveling, 2 or 3 days at a time, and always be home for the weekends and so. And then when they had their big out in the field war games, I would go and do that, and then sleep at a hotel at night, and then evaluate these people during the day. A lot of times I'd stay with them in their tents, because it just, to me, it just rubbed me the wrong way that I'm nice and warm and dry, and you guys are in tents. You got pallets on for a floor, and the water's running through the pallets. But you got the medical people, though, had no idea what this was all about. Mm-hmm. You put plastic bags over the top of your medicine cabinets. Well, good, you keep the dust out. No, man, that's so when the tactical nuke hits, it doesn't all get radiated, and we can still use them. Oh, well, how do you clean the floors? We open up this end of the tent and that end of the tent, and Mother Nature just blows it like a madman. But you should do... No ideas.
So you had a lot of practical experience that you brought in.
Hands-on, yeah, that's it. Some of these commanders would say, hey, we need a medic and we want Sergeant Sutton only. Because we do their guy's buddy. Plus the credibility. Been there, done that. You know? Were you ever scared? If you're not, you're stupid.
All And what was and you had your family with you, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what kind of accommodations did you have there?
We had really a nice, we were in a big apartment building. There were 12 families, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 families on 3 floors, all senior NCOs, a couple of Army, a lot of the Air Force, 3-bedroom apartment, cable. This is what you'll watch because this is the only station you got.
Mm-hmm.
God, we hated NBC News. But anyhow, because Brian Gumbel had come on, and he was such a jackass, it was unbelievable. But very nice accommodations. Jennifer went to school on base. Mm-hmm. Julie went to Kaiserslautern High School, and they had these big Mercedes buses that would take them to school and bring them back.
So was she taking classes in German then? Or
Carol was.
Okay, but Julie, was she, or was there an American section there or something?
Well, it was American High School,
Okay,
Kaiserslautern High School.
all right.
And then Carol, she worked at Ramstein High School. She became the school nurse. And that was the best time we ever had, because that lady, she does the best nursing job she ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Weekends, holidays off, big vacation in the summertime, so many sick days. I mean, it was great for her, there and back. And we had to buy we bought a brand new Ford Aerostar van for traveling, because we did a lot of running around in Europe. But I also had a Porsche. And we bought the Aerostar van because Mama was driving to work at 110 miles an hour. I know, she's got a lead foot. So, yeah, and we would go on Saturday, we'd go to France, in the Alsace region, grocery shopping, lunch at Luxembourg, Black Forest, get a cuckoo clock or something, maybe in Switzerland, and home.
Yeah. All right. Now you're also there, because you were there, what, till 89, 90?
90.
Okay. You're also there at the point when the Cold War is starting to kind of come to an end,
Right.
and things are the Berlin Wall comes.
Right.
Okay. So how much of that did you observe or was going on while you were there?
Okay, we knew what was going on because of the good newspaper, also a German newspaper and the news. So we got the NBC News.
Mm-hmm.
We went down, everybody went to red when the wall was coming down. 'Cause I don't know if you know the topography of Germany, but this is Germany. You got mountains to the north, mountains to the south, but in the center, perfect tank country to go to Bremen, Bremerhaven, those places. So they didn't know. It was just something that the bloc was going to pull off, and going down, and Mikhail Gorbachev with Reagan and all that stuff. So we were, I can't remember the name, I don't even know if it had a name, with a bunch of Army guys as backups, as backup medics. And there was an area where nobody walks. And you got the East Germans or the whomever they are, and you get the Americans. And all of a sudden they turned around and left. What the hell's going on? And they brought in a couple of gunships, and they were just sort of hovering there, you know. And then they left. So we all sat down and had a beer. That was it. Came back home, and then you saw the wall went down. We got a piece of it at home.
All right. And then were there people coming in from East Germany at that point?
Oh my God, unbelievable. There's so many bad traffic accidents because they would come in to West Germany. The West Germans didn't want them, by the way. Okay. They would come in, and these cars would be so overloaded that their headlights would be almost pointing up, and they'd be in the left lane. And some guy comes in with his Mercedes or Audi at 140 miles an hour, and there's baggage and people left all over. On the Autobahn, you have flatbeds and helicopters, and that's it. Because I mean, I came home from Europe. I came home from Frankfurt, which is a 4-lane both ways. And you have got 4 lanes of traffic. You got the slow lane, that's 60 miles an hour, 100 kilometers. You got the fast lane, you got the super fast lane, and then you got you better get out of the right lane. Okay, and of course in Europe, turn on your ticket, you're in front of me, you hit your right turn signal, I have to let you in. When I come up behind you and I want to pass, I turn on my left turn signal, you turn on your right turn signal, you get over and I go on through. I was drafting a Porsche at close to 125, a little over 200 kilometers an hour. Looked in my review mirror and I saw a flashing orange light. I said, you gotta be putting me on, dude. So I was drafting this Porsche in front of me, so I hit the lights and we both pulled over. And about that time, this little black thing went by me. He had to be doing 160, 170. Lamborghini Countach. Couldn't even get the plate. And then I heard this roar, and I went, oh, that's a Ferrari. 3 red Ferraris are chasing this guy, trying to catch him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just driving home on Friday night from Frankfurt.
All right. Now, of course, the East Germans had cars. I mean, some of them were these little plastic things with motorcycle engines in them.
Yeah.
Or,
And there'd be full of people, and the baggage would all be up on top, and they couldn't maintain the speed,
yeah.
and they didn't know how to drive anymore, you know, and they'd be in the wrong lane, and they'd come over the hill and hit them, and it was, and of course they gave them each $100 a piece. I forget what the fact. Oh, the West Germans were just madder than snot about that. Nobody was happy about the East Germans coming across. Nobody wanted them. They're stupid, they're dumb, they're lazy. Well, yeah, they've been in communism. They've been given everything, you know. You owe me. Oh yeah, they didn't have no use for it.
Right. Now, was that kind of stuff still going on by the time you left, or? Because the official union of the two countries is still not for another year or something.
Yeah,
after that.
because the war went down in '89,
Mm-hmm.
and we left in July of '90.
All right. Now, at this point, have you gotten sort of to retirement age, or?
Right, I had 24 and a half years in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where do you want to go? Well, let's see where they send us first.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got orders to go to Miami. 2 daughters, Miami, drug culture. I had been down there one weekend. And Julie had just started at First State. Okay, Mama's got to be with her babies. You have to realize I have a daughter, I have 2 daughters, a wife, and I always come in 5th.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't figured that out yet. But anyhow, no. And then, of course, what happened, the name of the base was Homestead. In the following year, the big hurricane
Right.
blew everything off. It was probably the best decision I've made in my life. Because at that time, it's like I told the fellow, I said, you know, yeah, people would scream to go to Miami. This is a family decision.
Yeah.
And everybody's got an equal vote.
Mm-hmm.
And Mama wants to be by her babies. Jennifer wants to go back to America. She's never lived in a house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Julie's at Ferris State. Kind of simple decision.
All right. So now, when you get out, now your wife continues to work as a nurse, right?
Right.
Right. So she still has a job. Do you go get another job, or what do you do?
Yeah, because there's no way you can just sit around. The retirement's I don't know who brought that term up, but I'm sorry. I'm type A personality. Okay. Yeah, we did, and I've always liked to cook, so I got a job in a fine dining restaurant at the chef and got trained.
Mm-hmm.
And I've worked at a couple other restaurants, ran a couple other kitchens, and like I told my wife, I started at the top and I've been working my way down ever since. WWII Ranch up here, ran a few kitchens for her, and yeah, so we did that. And then in 1995, we left that. I went to work in a factory, which I swore I'd never do.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a great place to work. I was there for 13 years. Then they bought me out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to go back to work again.
Okay.
Been doing stuff around the house. I've been taking up abstract painting. I've been going to MCC with a 4-point average. Where was I? 50 years ago. Oh my God, dummy. I've been going to Kendall Art School. Night classes there, not regular. I got $14,000 for tuition, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we've been doing a lot of that. We play golf and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's been.
All right. So, to look back on the whole thing, I mean, and of course you had a career there, but how do you think your time in the service affected you, or what did you take out of it?
Probably many things. First of all, the ability to get along with anybody. I mean, I come working here at the Silversides Museum. You got Navy, you got Coast Guard, and of course we rag each other all the time, but you're in that brotherhood. You know, you weren't in, you got no business talking to us. But I'll call him a squid, he'll call me an Airedale, I'll call him a grunt, you know, all sorts of things like that. Probably the biggest thing that has opened me up to knowing, hey, I'm an American, you know, people don't realize not everybody loves us. We're not the sweetheart of the world by any means. Number two, we don't have the only way to do it. Well, why don't they do this over here? Well, because this country, I mean, I've eaten in restaurants whose foundation were laid before America was discovered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why don't the Turks, the dirty Turks, I wouldn't eat that. They don't do their food like ours. Go to a Turkish restaurant. You see a bunch of dead bodies? No, it's probably pretty good, and they're great cooks. You know, so I can get along with anybody, seriously, and that is it's cultural. And I go to, it just amazes me. I just took 2 semesters of American history, a semester of World War II, and people have no knowledge of America. Oh my God, it just blows me. And I took this art course from Tim Norris, from Renaissance to modern art. And I'm thinking, you know what? The smarter I get, the dumber I am. You know, wow, how all this stuff works in. And we used to go to the churches in Germany, look at the facades and so. Mm-hmm. And it has really, I mean, everybody's got something. They really do. It's just, to me, it's obviously made me a better person. Obviously made me an easier person to live with. Basically, that's how I got elected to the city council. You know, because there's so much discourse up there that, you know, hey, I'm a team player, but I'm not a yes man. And that's the way it goes. And with the girls, still, I've got 27 to 26, a 19, and a 6-year-old grandchildren. Mm-hmm. And we're having a blast with that 6-year-old. Mama says no, Daddy says no, Grandpa says, how many would you like?
Yes. Well, you earn that privilege, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is, I think we should be like the Israelis. Everybody should go to the military for 2 years. Mm-hmm. To learn discipline, to learn your own self-respect, to learn to respect other people, and that the world, you know, it doesn't revolve around your video game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some of my students could probably learn that.
My gosh, like, hey, Mr. Sutton, please, Michael, I'm a student, just like you are, just because I'm older, and I understand that. What you want? Well, the instructor wrote on here comments on my test, and I can't read cursive.
Wow. Yeah.
You got to be, but our 6-year-old is learning how to write cursive. She goes to Grand Rapids Christian. So they're teaching her, I say, you got to be. Cursive's a second language to them. Because I thought they were pulling me out, so I said, well, you've got to work a little bit harder, and I don't believe this whole paper. Well, I got to be on it. You really can't read this, can you? No, it's okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insult you. That's how I found out.
Yep.
You know? And like the history instructor was saying, we were sitting in class in the second semester of American history, we were into the Vietnam area, and we just kept everything quiet. Okay, I didn't answer questions unless they couldn't. Yeah. What you're studying about the civil rights in your textbook, I read it in the newspaper. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it would turn out being, where do you go for about the Vietnam War? Well, I go to this book, I go to this book. What's the best source? Well, somebody that's been there. He said, turn around. Mm-hmm. What? What did I do? You know, because I was listening. And yeah, it was really, really interesting.
All right. Well, the whole thing makes for a pretty darn good story. So I'd just like to thank you for taking the time to share it today.
No problem.